of your child's education. Something must be done, must be put in there. It's not entirely nothing to pay, because even the Education Act is very clear on the UP guidelines. There is a role for the government and there is a role for the parents. So dear parents, fulfill your roles so that our learners can benefit from our education system.
Okay. While we are still on that topic, Doctor, maybe talking about the efficacy of the directive that was given by the ministry, if we are trying to get into their heads, some of these schools are making unrealistic increments of school fees, but also, especially for the private schools. Sure. Now, the private schools also have come out as a response. You know, they're saying the times are indeed hard, but you cannot compare us to some of these schools that are funded by the government, because, I mean, they will walk away probably tax-free, they may not be taxed, or, you know, they're given certain incentives. But as we incur all the costs when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to taxation, when it comes to very many other costs that we incur, so it wouldn't be practical. I don't know, what are your comments on that directive?
Some schools will be able to manage to run within the directive, but others may find it difficult. There are many scenarios, I tell you, Philo. In those schools, there are issues. There are schools which went to the banks and got loans before the COVID pandemic. And the banks did not bow down to any costs. The schools still have to pay. And they are paying through their nose. All the money that goes to the school goes to the bank to pay for the loans which they incurred. Then the taxes, you have mentioned a bit of it. There are more than 5 taxes each private school pays. Yes. And the government has not also bowed down to say, let us waive some of the taxes. So these schools really have a problem. And the Education Act and the government white paper talk of education as a service, not as a business. So government would be more reasonable and remove some of the taxes so that education becomes a service, not a business. But now that education is being done like a business, the schools will continue to hike the fees. Yes. Because if it is a business, someone goes in to make a profit. So
we have just, you know, moved away from the whole service subject to being business oriented.
Which is very, very detrimental to the children of Uganda and the people of Uganda. Education costs have gone tremendously high. And that's why Ministry of Education, because it is their role to regulate. That's why they come in to say, can we regulate, can we put a limit to the school fees, which is practically difficult. It's practically difficult, if I can answer the question bluntly.
Yes, well, clearly now people would have to find what really works for them, because either way, some other schools have still continued to increase the school fees.
And there is another scenario, Philomena, in that very efficacy. The problem with the government, they have not come up to give a threshold of the fees. That how much exactly does it take to educate a child at a nursery school? How much exactly does it take for a Ugandan to educate a child at primary, educate a child at secondary, at university? Government has not yet taken up that scientific study. If that scientific study had been taken on, then we would say, yes, the threshold school fees that is sufficient for a child at a different level is this much. But now that you are buying a bus, then you can increase by this bit. Now that you are digging a swimming pool, okay, this much. Yes. But there is nothing like that. Now the UP schools, government is paying 10,000 per child per year. Can we say that is the threshold? That is enough. And now they have come in to say the limit is 120 for a boarding primary. And now the schools which have been charging less are even going to charge higher.
Way higher.
So parents who are going to feel it a lot more, because the school proprietors will say now, government has said this is the sufficient fees. So you have been paying less. You need to pay more. It is really a dangerous scenario we are moving into. And I beg government to go in for a scientific study to tell us the threshold that is sufficient to educate a child in Uganda at various levels. Then from there, we shall judge the schools that can raise.
So that's very, very important.
And now that you have said private schools are charging high.
Yes.
But there are government schools which are charging even higher. And these private schools usually judge their costs in accordance to the government schools which charge higher, yet the teachers are paid, the facilities from government go there. And for private, there is nothing. So it is really a difficult scenario.
Well, it's really indeed difficult. Reopening of schools, we are talking about the readiness of different stakeholders, the learners, the parents, and also the learning institutions as we are taking our children back to school. How ready are they? The people who are receiving them, how is first term going to go for us, especially for this academic year of 2023? And of course, I do have Dr. Tony Mukasa Lusambu here this morning, giving us quite some intel on that. Now, speaking of education and curriculum changes, I mean, for the last couple of months, we've been having a lot of talks about curriculum changes. Things are changing here and there. Right now, the education curriculum that we're looking at is quite different from the times we grew up. It's a different thing altogether. I'm seeing new subjects. I'm seeing new things that I can't even relate to back then. Probably you also had you had a different curriculum. But talking about these curriculum changes, every other day we have been talking about how the education quality that we are having right now does not resonate with the times we are in. Things that, I mean, the world is changing, things are dynamic. And we saw the Ministry of Education coming in with new curriculum changes, especially for the O-level students. We're seeing they're getting into the practical bit more. As compared to what we had, it was more theory-oriented, at least during our times. I would love to hear your comments on this. Is this something we actually needed in the education sector? And is this actually the right time for us to be seeing changes in this curriculum?
Yes, and I thank you for that question. I'm telling you, Philomena, this is a curriculum we have been yearning for many years. In the ministry where I have been, we have always requested for this type of curriculum. This curriculum rotates around the philosophy of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere way back in 1966, when he came out to say Africa should provide education for self-reliance. Education for self-reliance. Now, if you consider education for self-reliance, this is the type of curriculum that the lower secondary schools are taking on now. And some people think it is a new thing, but it isn't. It started about more than 10 years ago at primary level, when we started what is called the thematic curriculum. The whole essence was to make our education system as practical as possible, so that we teach children at the lower primary through themes, and those themes are the themes that really touch their lives. So education is supposed to be as practical as possible. The children must feel, the children must touch, the children must see, and they use their brains. It is the 3 H's, using the head, the heart, and the hand, so that we teach the children in order to be self-sustaining when they qualify from school. And even before, if you consider our education system, many of our children drop out even before they reach secondary.
Yes.
And then you cry about unemployment.
I mean, look at the recently released results of primary 7. Yes, we did register people passing, but over 100,000 students are not going to progress to senior 1.
No, they are not. They are not. And it is very, very unfortunate. Although government now has some windows to help them. Those who failed can go back and register again. They are allowed. Secondly, those who failed can go to the technical side, and the DIT is ready to receive them and even certify them when they qualify. So those windows are there. But the education system today, which is now at the lower secondary, is the best for this country, is the best for the world. A child that comes out to school should have capacity to do certain things, lifelong skills, self-sustaining. A child should be able, at least has a different type of education. And that's why you see many institutions here. Go to the hotels, go to the industries, we find many Kenyans working there, Tanzanians working there. And our children are busy looking for white-collar jobs. You know, one completes the university, but looking for jobs becomes another type of employment of him. So now, let me address myself to the parents. Before you take your child to any school, let it be primary, secondary, or university, please ask yourself, am I taking my child to this school so that he gets a first grade? Only? If the answer is yes only, don't take your child there. Take your child to a school where you know you'll get the first grade, but also another skill. His Excellency the President launched a program, I think it was 2004, or somewhere in the Busoga there.
Yes.
And that program was intended to provide a skill to every Ugandan, so that every Ugandan acquires a skill. And that is the struggle now in this country. So if a school cannot teach a skill to a child where the child has to use the hands and the brains and the hands, don't take your child there, because these first grades alone don't help our children.
Yes.
And that should be the type of education. The curriculum is very clear on that. And I have started telling people that the children in senior 1 and senior 2 today will employ the children in senior 4 at one time.
Yes.
Because these children are at it right now, and they'll come out with it. And the children in senior 4 are still academically oriented, which doesn't put them somewhere. So this country is on the right track if we can go ahead to implement this new lower secondary curriculum.
Okay, and actually most of the comments that were coming in from a number of teachers, they're saying if a learner is a critical thinker, a problem solver, then that can actually become quite very, very very practical and very helpful
to the community. Yes,
yeah, absolutely.
There are some critical skills of the 21st century, like creativity, critical thinking, coordination, communication, collaboration. Those are critical skills of the 21st century. And then a teacher who does not embrace them and instill them to the children, then the children will be at a loss in the 21st century.
Well, there you go. Actually, the Ministry of Education and Sports also integrated certain projects into learning so that each learner can identify a community problem and the available local resources, and then design a solution using the resources they have to address that very specific issue or problem in the community.
Exactly,
so I think this goes a long way in helping and sorting our issues. There was also one change they made that I don't know if it's going to be implemented soon or maybe next year, the continuous assessment of students. Ideally, these assessments, right from the time you join senior 1 all the way to senior 4, they will keep assessing you whether you change schools. And this is where NERA is coming in, because we have seen NERA doing a countrywide registration of students and giving them the national identification numbers. And according to the ministry, all these assessments will be contributing 20% to the final exams at senior 4. Do you think this is going to push students in one way, getting them out of their comfort zones? Because back in the day, we were too comfortable. All I knew is that I'm going to sit my papers at senior 4, and that's just about it.
I'm telling you, Philomena, this is one of the things that I went out of the ministry unsatisfied. The assessment system of our education is not the best. It is an elimination type of system. It is so examination oriented that that does not really assess our child effectively. A child has been at primary since nursery, 3 years, 7 years primary, and in those 10 years,
yes,
now you examine this child in 2 days and they condemn him. Say these are failures.
For
these
10
are
years.
For 10 years, 2 days. Is this really sufficient assessment? And you cannot tell me that this child does not even qualify for a certificate because it's ungraded. It is really an elimination system which is unfair. Therefore, if we go continuous assessment, I'm very happy. And I will die a happy man if it succeeds. Because this is the way a child should be assessed. If a child can really be able to put on a shirt and button his shirt, go to school, listen to the bells, and attend lessons, and you say you don't qualify for anything after 10 years, it is unfair. Therefore, continuous assessment will help us to follow this child. This child has been able to achieve certain things at a very level. And if these things have been recorded, they will follow this child up to the end. And this child will be, at the end of it all, this child will be placed somewhere where he can fit according to those competences that he has been achieving year in, year out, year in, year out. So it's the best system for our children. Although it will have challenges, Philomena, there is nothing without challenges in this world, especially if it is the best. If it is the best, you definitely have challenges. But that's why people are there, officers are there. You are there now to discuss these challenges and see how best we can get out of them, so that we achieve the best at the end of the tunnel.
Okay. Well, of course, we are talking about the readiness of schools. But doctor, getting back to the primary leaving examination, the results were recently released, and of course there was an increase in the number of students that were able to register for PLE 2022. We also did see an improvement again in the performance, but the subjects, we did see English, which registered quite an improved performance. Then mathematics came second, and the issue here now we're looking at science. Science and math, could all be in the same category, but the performance in science was a bit lacking.
Right.
And also zeroing down to the quality performance in terms of the distinction 1s and distinction 2s. They were there, but they improved, the number went high, but not to the point where we would want. Now, for a country like ours where we want to be science oriented, now this is the gospel our politicians are preaching. Even His Excellency has said we need to move towards that direction. And I don't believe that it will only start at O level. We need to start right from primary.
Sure.
How best do we get this performance driven up, especially in the science subjects?
Right. Let me tell you, Philomena. Now, those results reveal a lot of what has been happening. I begin with the English. Remember, we said, let us teach the children at the lower classes using their local languages. P1, P2, P3. Learn in their local language so that they register and master it properly, then transition class primary 4. And when they go to the upper classes, they go into English, remembering what they achieved in their local language. It has achieved. That's why the science, the English has been best performed. Because the children go into English after mastering their mother tongue. And then they think in their mother tongue and translate and can answer questions and read and understand. They are now learning with understanding. And that's why I think they have performed well at English. Now, when it comes to science you are talking about, UNEP has also gone practical, because we want these sciences to be as practical as possible. Unfortunately, most of our science teachers have not yet gone there. I told you about the thematic curriculum, which requires children to touch, children to feel, children to really research and do things practically. Now, UNEP brought questions that would call for a child who has looked at something practically. who has touched it, who has felt it. Unfortunately, some of the teachers are still teaching science theoretically. And that's why some of them are failing to provide the correct teaching to our children. And definitely, it's no wonder that science was not well performed. But now let me come to the third issue raised about the distinctions.
Yes.
I want them to completely die away.
That kind of grading.
That kind of
general grading or the general thoughts about distinctions?
I am telling you, parents should stop thinking about the four, the what.
Yes.
No. It is not the four that will reveal the best candidate to us. It is what the child can achieve.
With the four.
With the four.
Yes.
But not the mere four. So what is it you can do with what you know? The issue of the 21st century is not on how much you know, but what can you do with the much you know? And that is how science was set. And my dear teachers viewing, make sure you teach science practically. Let the children feel, let the children touch it, let the children do it. Then they will do science better with understanding.
Well, there you go. Reopening of schools, analyzing the recently released results. Again, it's what we have been talking about between myself and Doctor here. And, you know, the pressure is quite a lot, Doctor,
sure.
Because for a parent, when the results come out, one thing the parent is looking at is my child in first grade? I mean, it's very sad that in the last days, we've been seeing schools advertising in the papers about their performance. You find a school that probably has maybe 63 students and maybe 60 passed in Division 1 and the other 3 passed in Division 2, and they're leaving out the 2. They're selling the first Division 1s. That's what they're selling. Sure. We have seen schools registering about more than 24s, and we are wondering what's happening. Schools become too commercial that they feel the need to advertise this in the papers as opposed to actually looking at the real education that they are giving in there. Why have we become so business oriented, the education sector, especially for the private
sector? It started from where we started, by government charging the taxes and so on.
Yes.
It's very unfortunate that our country is turning education into business. It's really very unfortunate. That's why you see those advertising and so, and it is unprofessional. Schools would be like hospitals. Teachers are like doctors. You don't advertise yourself, because even if your hospital is the best, patients will die there. Even if you are the best teacher, you will teach some children, they will not pass according to my expectation. Some children will not get the 4. So it is really unfortunate that our education system is becoming so commercialized. But
is it too late for us to save ourselves, to come back to what we are supposed to be doing?
It is not too late, and let me tell the parents viewing me now, the 4s you are crying for are dying out. If we go ahead with the new curriculum, the lower secondary, we are going to phase out this type of examination so that the children are assessed continuously, with continuous assessment. You don't wait for these passes and so on. You place a child according to those levels where the child has passed. So it is not too late. I agree with you. Let's go continuous assessment. Let's go new curriculum, and we see how our children can really perform without thinking about academic.
Okay.
Academic is just one domain, the cognitive domain. But there is the affective domain and there is the psychomotor domain. All those make a human being complete, and it is only that can help our country.
There you go. Now, talking about the safety, this is very key for the children in schools, whether at primary level, secondary level, at all levels. Safety is very important. And one of the biggest challenges right now, Doctor, and I'm sure you can also attest to what I'm about to say, the fires in our schools. I mean, there is a lot of fires going on in the schools now. We're losing children, we're losing property, and generally it's a setback for an education education institution.
Exactly.
I mean, according to a police report, about 17 schools of 40 that caught fire across the country, that was between January 5th, 2022 and June 27th, 2022, were burnt deliberately. So we are looking at cases of arsonists, and 4 other fire incidents occurred out of negligence. But we seem to be a bit slow on finding a solution to this. I mean, what are we not doing? Is this, can we say school administrations are negligent, or some of these are just unavoidable circumstances? And what would be the ideal way to approach to ensure safety? Because as a parent, you want to know that I'm taking my child to school. I should be coming here for visitation and to see the performance, and be back here to pick my child, not because the dormitory was on fire and, you know, talk like that.
Really, school authorities have to be more vigilant. School authorities have to be more vigilant. Look at the wiring system in the school. If they are hanging wires, they should all be fixed as we prepare to open the schools. Then there are these fire extinguishers. I think fire extinguishers should be refilled annually. So by now, the school authorities should have checked to ensure that all these fire extinguishers have been refilled. Then the fire extinguisher skills. The matrons, the teachers, the pupils should be taken through those drills to know how to use the fire extinguishers. And also the safety at especially the dormitories. When such a calamity occurs, do children know what to do? Do teachers know what to do? Do the matrons know what to do? Do the children know where to go? And we even put some measures on what a dormitory should look like. How many doors should be there? Who should be in the dormitory to assist the children in such cases? Then as children enter, some of the children entered schools yesterday, others are entering school today, there must be thorough checking of their boxes to ensure that there are no candles in the children's boxes, there are no matches, there are these safety matches, then the lighters. Some of these things are taken in the children's boxes, and when children are given some work and they don't accomplish it, then they go into their dormitories and try to complete this work, and they put on the candles and so on. So we need to really check, and not only check on the entrance, but even during the school time, there should be abrupt checkpoints to ensure that our children are safe. Then dear parents, don't take children to places where you are not sure that the children are really safe. The fences, to ensure that the school environment is really safe for our children. But even the other things like water, is water safe, is water boiled, what about the bathrooms and so on. So all this is safety for our children, and I call upon school authorities to make sure that they are vigilant enough in this area.
Okay, as we are coming close to the end of this discussion, Doctor, there is one thing I would really, again, love to hear your view. The long hours that children are subjected to.
The what?
The long hours of education, of classes, yes, that children are subjected to. We're having a conversation here earlier on with a colleague and talking about how you find in certain schools, this child, the classes will probably start as early as maybe 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. Now, this is time that is supposed to be delegated for morning prep. Sure. And if I remember well, back in my time, we would do this for personal, use this time for personal revision. Correct. But right now, you find a teacher is more concentrating to make sure that their classes, then during the course of the day, there are classes until the end of the day, and then night prep classes. There's certain schools where they have examinations during these hours. Now we are thinking, who does this work in favor for? The teachers who want to finish their syllabus, or the children who are being subjected to all of this? And does it in any way impact the children's performance generally?
Whether it impacts or not, I want to reason it as an educationist, as a teacher by profession. Children should always be allowed ample time to rest. A brain has to really rest. I think we have gone too far. And it goes back to making education a business. So there is a lot of competition, and a lot of over-teaching. Over-teaching doesn't help a child. It affects the children's brains in the end of it. And some of the children have hated schools to the extent of really running out. You know, I had an announcement in Kenya. The Kenyan minister has come out to say all learning must start at 8 strictly,
8 a.m.
and it stops, I think, 3:30.
Yes.
And they have sent their teams to be really sure that this is implemented. I think we need to go that way now. Because
it's a concept we need to take on.
Exactly.
Yes.
You find a nursery child really trotting to school as early as 6 a.m.
Doctor, I'm on my way to this place as early as 4:30, close to 5, and I will find students trotting to school.
It's unfair. And some of the children walk long distances, and it affects not only their brain but even their health, because some of them catch asthma because of the cold weather and so on and so forth, and the children are not even well fed. All that is a lot of hassle that affects our children's brains and the thinking capacity. At the end of it, psychologically, the children get affected. In the night where a child should be sleeping, they are subject to a lot of homework, which really disturb people. And I saw MP in Mukono trying to say, don't give my children homework, which I must do with them. All those things are unprofessional. The children's homework, not parents' homework.
Yes.
Brilliant. But there are many issues to talk about. Time is limited, but we should be reasonable enough as teachers not to overwork our children. The children should have limited time for study. At least lessons should start as early as 8 a.m. and maybe close up at 4, so that children have time to do other things, the home chores and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It was quite a great pleasure having you here. Any final words on this before we sign out?
I would like to welcome the teachers who have come to start the term and encourage them to work hard. I welcome the children back to schools. I congratulate the parents who have been able to take the children back to school. Now I call upon all parents to ensure that all children go to school. The policy in this country that all children must be in school. But there are many things, Philomena, which are not happening in our society simply because our leadership is not vigilant enough. Leaders out there from the village level, make sure all children in your village go to school. There are schools all over the place, but many children don't go to school up to now. By the time I left ministry, was 90% of our children were not going to school. And 90% of children in this country mean a lot. So it is important that all our children go to school, and let us do whatever it takes that when the children go to school, they learn. Let learning take place. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that education is the key to national and individual development. And what is education? Education is what you remain with in life after forgetting everything that you learn in school. So education makes you a complete human being.
Absolutely.
God bless you, and thank you for viewing.
Dr. Tony Mukasa Lusambu, an education consultant, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Well, I will leave it at that, but we do have sports updates coming in from Ruben Mpima Chividango, and right after that you have GMU Extra queued up for you. I want to wish you a wonderful Monday and a very productive week ahead. I am Philomena Mastiko. Good morning.